first of all, holy shit, thank you so much.
No problem.
How long have you been living in Pennsylvania now?
4 years. I lived on the East Coast the last 15, South Jersey, upstate New York, and then Pennsylvania.
But originally from Canada.
Originally from Canada, yeah, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Right on. How in the hell did we get to a hemp field in the middle of Pennsylvania?
That's a good question. That's a good question. The short version of it is I retired in 2010 from professional hockey. Had a lot of physical injuries, had some concussion issues, and kind of went on this alternative path of plant-based medicine. As I started reading, I started learning about reading more about protein sources and digestible protein sources. I started reading about hemp seed, and the nutritional profile of hemp seed really kind of got me into the health and wellness component of hemp. And then as I started learning more, I started reading about non-psychoactive cannabinoids like CBD, and just kind of grew extremely passionate about hemp, and kind of going back in time and trying to reintroduce this age-old crop back to the farmer, back to society, and make it normal again. You know what I mean? To grow hemp, which most people don't know, the rich history of growing hemp in America, specifically in Pennsylvania. Just doing what's right, kind of reclaiming our soil and doing something sustainable and renewable again. So all those things combined really got me passionate about hemp and getting into the business of hemp.
Yeah. And so what was your kind of point of entry in terms of the business? Like, we were like, okay, I want to get in this field. Who did you meet, and how did that come about?
There's a lot of advocacy work and networking that went on the front end of this. An obvious direct path of me being in the business of hemp. There was really no legislation going on back then. It was kind of a pipe dream. So 2010 and up till 2015 was nothing more than advocacy and paying it forward and networking, going to these conferences and learning and speaking, and just kind of doing my thing as far as getting involved and showing that I'm in it for the right reasons. I believe in this plant. And then these last couple of years, as legislation started being introduced in Pennsylvania on both medical cannabis and the hemp side, kind of nailed down the pathways that we wanted to go. And we're only at the beginning. This is on the second year that we're able to legally grow hemp in Pennsylvania. Last year was strictly pilot program. This year is still a pilot program. We're able to commercialize the end product, and there's so much learning to be discovered. Trial and error. I mean, it hasn't been grown in this area in the state for over 80 years. So we're introducing different varietals to different different farms, different soil. We're on the right path. We believe in what we're doing, and there's going to be some hemp legislation on the federal level being passed here, hopefully in the next month or two, and it's going to really change the landscape of American hemp. And, it's really that's what we're trying to do. Just do our part in our area of the world, in our area of the country, and spearhead American hemp. Yeah.
How does it feel being on the right side of history?
Oh, it's amazing. It's like you look at the world from a solution standpoint. We have so many different issues going on in this world, and we don't talk about them enough. Like the environmental component, and the health crisis we're in. And it all ties back to our environment. And again, if we can go back to simplifying it and giving farmers a crop they can grow that's sustainable, it doesn't require the pesticides and the chemicals that some of these other crops take to produce, like cotton and get synthetic fibers and all these other things. We can kind of get back to our roots and get back to the way that that it was kind of designed to be. Now we're kind of coming together, through the community, through the state, all across the board, all walks of life, and part of this movement and trying to change the way we live. And it's this is wellness.
It's been 100 years of industry, and now it seems like we're kind of having a little bit of a return to nature. Does it not blow your mind that it is so rudimentary, where we are, the stages that we're in are so early in terms of developing hemp, developing cannabis?
No doubt. I mean, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg type of thing. It's like you need a processing facility to process hemp, but you don't want to be. No farmer is going to grow hundreds of thousands of acres of hemp if there's no guarantee what they're going to do with it. So it's
plus they need time to figure it out, right?
Time to figure it out. How to farm it the right way for a certain purpose. Is pretty much brand new research and data collection. These last couple of years. So it's the farmers want to grow it, but they need to. Needs to be an honest incentive for them to grow it. I mean, if you're not going to make more money than growing corn and soy, why would they take the risk?
Exactly.
They're going to stay in their comfort zone, and we're trying to get them out of their comfort zone, but really just kind of show the viability of this crop and the direction that it's going. It's not going away. In fact, this is going to be, give this 5-10 years. I mean, this stuff's going to be growing everywhere, and it's going to be like a brand new industry
cow,
going
yeah.
on. It once was, I think a $1 billion crop. I mean, it's probably a $1 trillion crop. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? It's,
oh yeah, for sure, in 10 years.
If you do it right, integrate it with the right technologies, it's insane what you can do with it. So
it feels good to be at the base of the tree right now before it grows. You're talking about getting farmers out of their comfort zone. When you approach them to grow or figure out how they do that, what was it like to get them over that comfort zone and be like, we have to try this now?
They had already done their research. They knew that they wanted to do it. They've been in the farming business long enough that they know the direction of where farming is going.
Yeah, they smell.
I think they smelled the hemp coming for the last couple of years.
Right on.
And then now they're just ready to ramp up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You told me in Austin that our Constitution, the American Constitution, is written on hemp paper.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think the first American flag was sewed by Betsy Ross on hemp hemp fiber.
I mean, come on.
Pennsylvania is the hub of the starting point of hemp. I mean, Henry Ford built the car using hemp fiber and ran on hemp fuel back in 1937. It's like we're not reinventing the wheel here. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like we just know that this is energy, this is a resource, and this is the new and futuristic industry. I mean,
absolutely,
of the world. I mean, this is going to be global. This is not just Pennsylvania or America. I mean, we're way behind. I mean, there's other countries that are way ahead of us. We're way behind. You know what I mean? Behind. It's like as progressive as we might think we are standing here. And geez. I mean, we're way behind. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like the quicker we can get back on track, the better it is for everybody. I mean,
how has cannabis changed your life?
Very recreational setting growing up, smoking at parties and that whole bit, not really understanding what I was really doing. I mean, it made me feel good. You know what I mean? There was obviously some giggles and things that come along with that. You 20 when I turned pro, I started fighting within the hockey game regularly, and I started having besides performance anxiety, fighting anxiety.
Yeah,
like, okay, we're going to battle tomorrow. We're fighting, Joe Blow at 6'5" and 280 pounds or whatever, something stupid.
All right.
So that's really like, holy.
I would have to be high out of my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So just like understanding, like, wow, this is really helping with my anxiety and enabling me to sleep properly and wake up in the morning feeling fresh. So I used it through my whole pro career, more mindfully, but still, I still partied way too much. So I wasn't really understanding or respecting substance enough to really, again, see the bigger picture of cannabis. 28 and retired in 2010, and he said, "Whoa, geez, what the hell just happened?" Worked my whole life to get to where I am today, and I have to retire at the age of 28 because I wasn't being sustainable. Right. My favorite word is sustainability and being sustainable. So I just realized that hemp is that, and that's when I started learning about the bigger picture of cannabis and what people seem to focus on, which is the medical, recreational, or spiritual use of cannabis. Sure. And then there's this like 95% of the rest of it is like industry. It's a food, it's a fiber, it's a shelter, it's a building material. Yeah. Then I had even more of a respect for the plant to just be like, oh man, I mean, it's like everyone's so focused on just like the THC and CBD. It's like we're missing the point of what this plant really is, and just getting back to basics and kind of reconnecting to Mother Nature. And
one thing that I certainly connected on you with was the spirituality of cannabis, and I just remember within a month of using it and starting to eat better, think better, to care for myself better, to not be so hard on myself, to not beat myself up, and to have perseverance. Yeah. I really admire that's like part of it for you, especially in this industry and being a voice in this industry.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because the spirituality component to me is probably the most important. Yeah. You know what I mean? Part of the cannabis, and I think it's the most overlooked. Yeah. It is such a spiritual plant. I mean, all the things you're talking about, like, there's no science that could really kind of come into play, and they explain to you why you felt creative, or why music just seems to feel better. I think that's what the world lacks of, as much connection as we have with technology and this artificial connection. We've kind of lost touch with ourselves and Mother Nature, and I think that's what cannabis and these plant-based medicines do. It's just kind of there's something about it. It's a connector plant. It brings people together. It promotes rest. We're trying to get away from our problems, but I think the consciousness of cannabis is like, it kind of makes you face your problems. Like you don't bury yourself like you do with alcohol. When cannabis seems to at least help you with your problems, you know what I mean, or you put them in perspective. I mean, it's a tool, you know what I mean, and it's a positive one. But I think, like all tools, they can be abused, and I think that's what needs to be taught more is the more mindful cannabis users, the more understanding of your actual product, where is it coming from, the local farmer, the corporate farmer, and and what are you doing, like setting. I think that's one of the most important things. There's this level of spirituality that we can attain through this plant if it's taught properly, and the culture of cannabis has kind of remained intact. I think we've already seen like so much processing of it already, and everyone's doing it at different scales and different parts of America, but of the globe. I mean, there's people all around the world trying to do this for the right reasons and get away from the poison, you know what I mean, and bring this thing back, and at least bring balance back into the world, because we went so far one way, synthetic and chemical. Let's bring it back to nature. We've poisoned everything. It sounds earthy. I never thought in my lifetime I'd be like that passionate about something so basic and simple, but in this day and age, I mean, we've been fundamentally misled so badly. I look at this as a wellness and preventative, or it's just like, if you do the right things on the front end, it's just simple math. Like you're at least mitigating some disease or some really bad thing from happening down the road.
We're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah, I know.
Where do you see hemp and cannabis in America in the next 5-10 years?
From a medical cannabis side of things, I mean, I think it's 29 states now have programs. There's gonna be a federal program here, and I would say the next 5 years you can see one. On the hemp side of things, the legislation will pass. At least the farm bill will pass. There's gonna be federally legal hemp growing. It's changing fast. Cat's out of the bag. You're not pushing it back in. There's too much money invested. Look at Canada. I mean, I think October 17th implements the legalization of cannabis, rec in the rec side.
Well, that's the future I'm going to believe.
Yeah, I know.
Dude, thank you so much for lining this up.
No problem.
I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah.